Hey, it's Uncommon Fossil, and great news for United Wings fans. We have information about the next update coming to PTCG Live. That's August 20th, the usual deal where it's going to be down for 8 hours. That hopefully doesn't keep taking as long in the future, but that's what we got for now. But they're fixing a number of issues, including the Ditto that United Wings fans have been screaming about. So let me just give a quick rundown of the things that are getting addressed. There's a few meaningful things. So the first thing is there's the Dusclops, right? The new one with the Curse Blast ability, right? You put 5 damage counter on one opponent's Pokemon, knock yourself out. They say here, fixed an issue where a considerable delay between placing damage counters and the Cursed Blast ability and Dusclops being knocked out. So there is this funny delay. You in the middle of it somewhere, the game kind of pauses for a bit. And I always get nervous as the game frozen up because Live is prone to that. So that's getting fixed. And I assume it's going to fix the Dusknoir as well, because I believe they both have the same issue. They didn't say that, but I assume that is the case. There's an issue with Regidrago V-Star that's getting fixed. It has to do with having no cards in deck and using things that draw cards. Right here it says for Regidrago V-Star fix an issue where the Legacy Star ability could be used when there are no cards in players' decks. And that could be useful because what the Legacy Star ability says, during a turn you may discard the top 7 cards of your deck, then put up to 2 cards in your discard pile into your hand. So just being able to get 2 cards in your discard pile would be great. You have no cards left in deck. You get that boss from the discard pile into hand to win the game. That would be awesome. But if you have no cards in deck, you can't use this ability. It's a rules issue. You discard the top 7 cards. Now, if you have less than, as long as you have at least 1 card, you discard as many as you have, up to 7. But if you have no cards, then you don't do the discarding, so therefore you cannot get cards from hand from the discard pile. So that's been an issue with certain things in Live, and they're fixing these things, cleaning it up. So glad to see that happening as well. An issue with Farigiraf, sorry. Not going to worry about that. It's a smaller one. Unfair Stamp. There was an issue there where the card couldn't be played if a Pokemon was knocked out that had handheld fan attached, and the handheld fan's effect was activated. In other words, you moved an energy your opponent's bench from the active to the bench. Somehow the Unfair Stamp wouldn't trigger. So there was issues. Somehow it wasn't recognizing that a knockout took place. That's some of the funny things with Live, and where I'm just concerned with what's going on with the programming. Why are things so messy that these weird things happen? Rescue Board, a funny little issue here. Fixed an issue where Jamming Tower, right, which shuts off effects of tools, which should shut this one off as well. It didn't block the effect of Rescue Board attached to a Pokemon with 30 HP remaining, because if you remember, Rescue Board reduces the retreat cost of Pokemon by 1, but then the second sentence, which generally gets ignored because it's generally not relevant, if that Pokemon's remaining HP is 30 or less, it has no retreat cost. So even if you had a retreat cost of 4, if you're down to 30 HP or less, you could still retreat. But with with the Stadium Jamming Tower, that shouldn't work either. So somehow that second aspect of the ability of what that tool enabled wasn't getting shut off by Jamming Tower. Again, don't understand why these weird glitches happen, but good that that's getting fixed. An issue with Gardevoir EX on mobile clients. So if you're a mobile player and had those issues, good for you. The big one for me, and probably for some other people as well, is the Ditto. And this is the Ditto with the sudden transformation ability. It actually has no attack, but the ability says this Pokemon can use the attacks of any basic Pokemon in your discard pile except for Pokemon with a rule box. You still need the necessary energies to use each attack, and it's just a fun card to play around with lots of options. The biggest thing right now is the United Wings. You can copy those, so potentially you can have all 16 United Wings cards in the discard pile and do that full 320 damage. So good for United Wings to have this attacker. So finally they're going to get around to fixing that. It's been a while for sure. And then the last card is Miss Magius, fixing the issue where the mysterious message ability could be used when there were no cards in the player's deck. So this is an older expanded card. It's not in standard now. But again, an issue with what happens when there's no cards in deck and certain things shouldn't work. Mysterious message, if you're not familiar with it, once during your turn you may draw cards and you have 7 cards in hand. If you drew any cards this way, this Pokemon is knocked out. And sometimes you might actually want to knock yourself out to get a counter catcher or something like that. Or, like with the Dusclops, right, to boost, say, Charizard EX's damage. But if you have no cards in deck, then you can't use this ability, which means, of course, you don't knock your Pokemon out. So again, these things with no cards in deck, it's been an issue for a while now. They've been kind of cleaning things up very slowly with that. So glad that they're getting the game in a little better sense, dealing with some unresponsiveness in the game client where abilities that move energy. So I haven't ran into that myself, but that's good getting cleaned up. And some other stuff like with friends list too, because that is that part of the game isn't very well developed under the profile area with your friends list. So I'll give a link so you can take a look at the items. You can open up the article yourself and see what they have. The big one, of course, is Ditto, because there's been a lot of complaints about it, and a lot of people looking for that to get fixed. Because United Wings, while maybe not be a top tier deck, it's certainly a viable deck, certainly a very solid rogue deck at worst, and maybe even better than that. Time will tell as to how good United Wings can be, but glad that's getting fixed. So some good news as Pokemon fixes live a little bit. Hopefully, obviously, things get better and there's less issues. But, anyway, good news in the near term.